Well, here I am again, walking. If you go back through my original videos, I refer to myself on this channel as the walking loser. For the last, I think it's about 2 years, I have to double check, but I have been walking 5 miles a day, 5 days a week, minimum. In fact, most days I walk a lot more than that. Sometimes I walk 7 miles, 8 miles. Today, my goal is 7 miles. And the reason I started doing this originally, well, there were a few reasons. I was going through a lot of stress in my life. I had a lot of things going on in my personal life, in my business life, in my investment life, and all the things that affect a person's life. And I was also changing as a person. You change. You go through stages in your life, and I'm in my 60s now, and I feel like I'm in another stage in my life, and we'll get into that a little more later. But anyway, I'm out here today, and as you can tell, as you're watching the video, I recorded the video earlier because I just wanted to walk in silence and I wanted to record what was going on around me. And now I'm narrating it. I've added, I'm adding the voice to it now, and I find I'm better at doing it that way because first of all, you don't have to hear me, breathing or losing my breath as I'm walking and recording at the same time and doing the voice. And it also gives me time to reflect on my walk, and then I can talk about it a little better. So, just so you know, I've lost 75 pounds doing this, and I've changed other things too. But also, it's very important that you get out in nature. You really, really need to get outside of your house, outside of your situation. And the other thing I'm finding, even though I'm in an area where there's a lot of open space, I've talked to people, I've made friends both here on YouTube and on X and other places who are big into walking. And everywhere you live, it doesn't matter where you live, there are places that you can walk. There are places you can find, and many of them are not necessarily always around crowded places. Even if you're in a city, there are hidden little gems in most cities in the world where you can walk, places you can go. And this is one of those. As you know, many of my videos they're either on the water here locally or they're out in nature, and I get great peace out of it. But I know that everybody can't physically walk; they don't have the ability to walk. But if you can get out there and do it, it is so relaxing. It's so good for your mind. So, like I said, I've lost 75 pounds, but more than that, this has changed me completely as a person. I am a completely different person than I was when I started walking. And the reason for that is when you're out and you're walking and you're in peace and you have no distraction. And as you walk, of course, your endorphins light up and your brain starts to work better. Your brain is focused better. And you start thinking. I made a video the other day I was talking about how it's really, really important to spend time alone. And this is part of that. Walking, even though it's exercise, it also gives me time to be alone. And when you're alone, you have beautiful thoughts. It doesn't start out as beautiful thoughts. At first you're like, I should be doing something else. I should be working. I should be here. I should be there. But overall, when you start to walk, it really excites your brain and it starts, sending messages to your brain. Thoughts, things, maybe ideas, and it could be ideas on how you can better your life. It could be past relationships. Sometimes I'll find myself walking and I'll be thinking about people. I'll be thinking about old friends. Many times when I'm walking, I'll call an old friend and I'll just say hi. And it's so nice You ever have somebody call you out of the blue? Somebody maybe you haven't seen for a while, and all of a sudden you're having this conversation, and it's such a beautiful thing to hear from somebody, especially somebody you really really like, or you had a relationship with in the past. And I have a saying, old friends are best. So it's really important when you connect with some old friends and rekindle those relationships. So sometimes I'll do that, but many times I just get great ideas. It could be great ideas about my finances, about my business, even about my personal life. You'll reflect on conversations you had with people. And if you're a good person with a decent moral structure, sometimes you'll look back and you may regret a conversation, or you may regret a decision. And when you're walking, it gives you time to think about all that. And many times you can go back and you can rectify situations that maybe you could have handled a little better or a little differently. But it just makes you focus. And being alone is all a big part of this. My mind is so much clearer now. I have, obviously, if you've seen my other videos, I have a new rule where I want to watch the sunrise and I want to watch the sunset, because everything in between those times is just what we do, how we live our life. We could be walking, we could be working, but all of it all fits in neatly together. And then by the time the sun sets, and let's call it an hour after that or 2 hours after that, you're exhausted from the day. And when you lay down in bed at night, you lay your head down, you sleep so soundly. I am sleeping now better than I have in my entire life. Most nights, I sleep for a minimum of 7 hours, a minimum. Sometimes I sleep a lot longer. Now, don't get me wrong. As you get older, sometimes you'll wake up in the middle of the night. And when I do wake up now, I get up and I do some journaling, or I do whatever. I try to do something. And usually it lasts about 10 minutes, because once I'm up for about 10 or 15 minutes, I'm exhausted again. And then I lay down my head and I go right back to sleep. But, walking has given me all these gifts. It's exercise, it's therapy, it's made my personal life better, it's made my financial life better, it's made my business relationships better. And I've gotten some brilliant ideas as I'm walking. In fact, I've made some investments in the last 3 or 4 years that have really, really, first of all, I've really impressed myself, because walking gives me time to think. And also, there's times I take breaks from walking and I'll do research. I may do research on different companies or different investments. I'll do research on real estate. I research all kinds of different things, and sometimes that will spawn an idea, and then I will just make a business deal based on that, or I'll buy a stock in a company, or I'll buy an ETF. Um, it's funny. I had thought about buying a new car here recently, and I walked a lot, and I thought about it, and then I realized after a while, I'm like, wait a second, I don't need a new car. What do I need a new car for? Where do I even go? And on those times when I do have a long distance to go, or I have to travel, let's say I have a 6 or 7 or an 8 hour drive, I can bring my own car. As you know, I have a Tesla Model 3, and I love driving that car. It's actually a self-driving car. But if I'm bringing my family, you know what I do now? I rent a nice car. It costs me, $400 or $500, and I get to have a nice car. I get to have a new car anytime I want. When you don't have car payments, renting a car for a few days is nothing. So anyway, listen, if you can walk, if you can move, get out here. Get out here, get some exercise. If you're not, a fan of walking, maybe get a bicycle, but get out in nature. You'll feel so much better. So listen, thank you so much for watching. I really appreciate you. And please like and subscribe. to all my videos. I would really appreciate that. Thank you.